This video will show how to set up your line scale. And line scale is basically how this pattern looks on the lines, the spacing. We can have lines with text, but in order for those to show up when we work on the drawing and when we print the drawing, this is the process. First, go to Model Space. If anybody says Model Space, you just pick this tab here that's Model. And then type this command first, LT Scale. And you want that set to 1. It's usually set to 1, but not always. The next command is MS LT Scale. And you want that set to 1. And what MSLT scale is once you have that turned on, what you see on the screen will be what gets printed in all cases. If you don't have that turned on, it's a little difficult to work on the drawings without having these patterns. If that's not turned on, your drawing will look more like this, region, where the patterns disappear, just 2 continuous lines. The next step is to set up your scale list, your annotated scale list. So type the command scale list edit. And there'll probably be some scales already in here. I'll create one to show you how to do it. Click add. 1 inch equals 10 feet. And then I just change that to 10. And now I've got another annotation scale. So your annotation scales control how the drawing looks while you're working on it in Model Space and the way it prints in Paper Space. So let's change this annotation scale back. We'll use 30. A lot of times when you make changes like this, your screen will not update, so you have to do a type regen, and that'll update the patterns. The way a lot of people set up their line scale is by going into LT scale. Instead of having that set to 1, they'll set it to the scale of the drawing. You don't really have to do that anymore. So let's look at Paper Space. Just click one of the tabs, and this is Paper Space. This is a viewport, and this is where you see the drawing. So for this to look correct, we've also got the annotation scale turned on. So just like MSLT scale set this up correctly to where it displays the line patterns, in Paper Space you type PSLT scale. Turn that on to 1, and that does the same thing. If when you print, it should look the same as it looks on the screen. If you turn that off, the regen, sometimes it'll stay the same and sometimes it won't. But PSLT scale. And it's important to know each tab you have to set PSLT scale to turn that on. So now when we set up our sheets, the old way of doing setting up sheets let's unlock it first. So I select it, viewport, it's unlocked. Was you would just zoom in and out. The command was just zoom, and then you do 1 divided by 30 XP, so that would become 30 scale. That's the old way. The better way is to select your viewport and then come over here to your annotation scale. Pick what scale you want. Make sure these two match. Once you get your things moved around where you want it, double click, select the viewport, and then lock it. That's all there is to it. As long as you enter those commands and set up your scales and set up your viewports, you should not have any issue. What you may run into is most everything looks okay except for a few lines. And let's say I was expecting this line to look the way it's shown, but I can change it by changing the line scale, the actual scale of just that entity. You'll see that a lot where people's done that to try to get the things to print correctly. But when you're using annotation scales, everything should be set to 1. So I was going to cover the very last thing related to this, and it's just a Civil 3D thing. In Civil 3D, the surfaces are objects, and the way they display is based on the style assigned. So let's go into here. Prospector is the command that opens up. Actually, I don't have to do it that way. I know I've learned anyway. So select your surface, and then come over here, and you'll see style. Hit create edit. And then on a lot of the older LRM drawings, this is set to 10. And that works, just setting things up differently than what I just showed. I typically keep all of this stuff to 1, and it works out. The last issue that I'm going to show causes a lot of problems. I'm going to switch over to Carlson real quick. It's easier to make lines. So let's make a line. Actually, let's look at the style, text style first. This part's a little more complicated. So I'm going to create a line that has letters in it. So I'll draw a line, and in Carlson, this is how you do it. Actually, I've got to move something here. All I'm doing is creating a line with text, and I'll have videos on how to do this in Civil 3D. Okay. First, so this isn't looking good, so I'm going to type in SLT scale, make sure that's turned on. It's on. Down here, the annotation view scale, I'm going to change that to 30. Now we're looking right. So whenever I use that line type definition, the text that's used is set up a specific way. So I'll just show that real quick. Style, you type style, and then what you want set is you want this set to 0. I set this to 0 on all of my line type fonts. Just set it to scale or set it to 0, and it'll take care of the height when it's in the line. If I was to set this to a number, it's going to change the size of the text in this line. Even if I change to scale, it's all relative, so it gets larger. So instead of it starting, it just really messes up your scales. In Carlson, you can look at all of the scale or the styles. To show you. So under text styles, these are the different styles that are set up, and these are the heights. A lot of people will set up font specific to a title block. Whenever you put a height in, it just really messes it up. So just leave them all at 0. The reason I showed that was people would have a drawing where one of their lines with text would display correctly, whereas another one seemed to be acting completely different. And the reason it was acting different was because that the text used to make that line was set up incorrectly. Hope this helps. This is pretty critical. And when I would train people, this was the first day training. If you don't have this set up this way, you'll have issues with in Civil 3D with labels not showing up in model space, plots that look one way on the screen but plot a different way. This generates most of the issues with working with CAD until you get into the more advanced stuff. Thanks.